What villain was actually the good guy? Iceman Top Gun. He was portrayed as the antagonist against Maverick, where he was just calling Mav out as being reckless, which he was. I came here to say this. I watched the movie as a 15-year-old punk and was super pissed off at Iceman for not letting Maverick be Maverick. What a pit. I spent all those years thinking he was a total turd. Then when the new movie was coming out, the wife and I decided to sit down and actually watch the old movie. Well, Iceman was right. 52-year-old me realized Iceman was totally right and handled the situation as well as he could. Was Ice, who was covering Cougar while you were showboating with that, my G. Mav, Cougar was doing just fine. Cougar was, in fact, not doing just fine. He was very far from fine. A lot of 80s villains were just people who didn't want the main character running amok and slash or putting everyone's lives in danger. Iceman, Walter Peck, Vice Principal Vernon, Principal Rooney, the Joker, Reverend Moore, Mr. Houseman, Johnny Lawrence. Iceman was probably the coolest, greatest antagonist of the late 20th century, and his character arc over the decades is basically the best in movie history. Was good to see Top Gun. Maverick acknowledged this by having him become an admiral with an illustrious career. Iceman Duckin ruled. I love how they poke fun at this in Top Gun Maverick. Leaving your wingman. Haven't seen that in a while. Hangman is basically who Maverick was in the first movie, and it's not shown to be a good thing. I'm with you 100% of those except the Joker. I understand that it was Batman's fault that Joker exists, but Batman wasn't running amok or putting lives in danger. Iceman was a better pilot, full stop. Growing up I thought they were bitter enemies. On a rewatch I realized they weren't even really enemies. Iceman was just calling Maverick out being for the reckless and dangerous flyer he was. Every time he was flying it was like he had something to prove that he really didn't need to. Everyone knew for a fact that Maverick was an incredible pilot, one of if not the best of the lot. Rules of engagement are there for a reason, and they are all on the same team. It's a miracle no one got killed. Goose doesn't count. Maverick's jet stream got cut so it wasn't his fault. So Ferris may have been out of control, but trespassing and breaking and entering are going too far over dude skipping too much school. I think that's supposed to be a reference to the dog fight with Viper. Maverick leaves Hollywood, gets too focused on Viper, and Jester kills Maverick. Well, Iceman won Top Gun fair and square. Maverick had to be all the hero to ask it as a favor. Same. It's amazing how your perspective changes when you grow up and learn and realize things. I freaking love Iceman now and I don't really like Maverick much as a person anymore. I love how the new movie really respected Iceman. I saw that movie for the first time a few months ago and it's only now that I realize Iceman is supposed to be the villain. I kept thinking, man, why won't this kid just listen to him? He's trying to help him. Maverick was an insane talent that needed to learn to be a real pilot. He is basically Hangman in the new movie. Iceman even in the new movie was shown to be what actual top fighter pilots are. Perfect in everything they do to the point it's boring all the way to the Admiralty. Tom the cat. Tom is doing his job as a house cat patrolling his family's home. He's a natural predator filling the niche cats fit in nature. His work is a service to his humans, keeping their food safe from contamination and keeping them safe from rodent-borne illnesses such as hantavirus. If we are going to assign human values to animals, then Jerry is guilty of breaking and entering and burglary. Jerry has no right to be there, Tom does. Duck you Jerry. Found Tom's alt. Not just that, but it could be seen at multiple points that they were actually somewhat friends, with Tom making a big show of trying to catch Jerry, but never actually exterminating him, despite having the opportunity. There was a one-off pilot on the What a Cartoon show in the 90s called Boyd and Worm, which I appreciated for its first half because the premise was basically what if Tom was a bird and Jerry was a worm, except this time you're really rooting for Tom because Jerry is an idiot and an inconsiderate dummy. The infuriating thing was that they didn't follow through, and the second half of the cartoon was a typical T and J shtick with Worm consistently outplaying Boyd at every turn despite Worm being the whole reason they were stuck in a dire survival situation when Boyd had started out with noble intentions from the very start. And of course Worm wins in the end because nothing means anything and justice is dead and God hates us. I never saw Tom as the villain. Jerry was always a little stick. Gets Chris off, too, when other cats try to duck with Jerry. Tom and Jerry were friends in one of the movies, and they fought so the owner wouldn't get a cat that would actually kill Jerry. R/threadkillers. Did a cat write this? Well, I remember it as though it were a meal ago. Tom's gun safety leaves a lot to be desired, though, and that makes him a danger to everyone in the household. Same with Wile E. Coyote. No, I think he was portrayed as the bad guy, so I'd say Stu Pierce Brosnan in Mrs. Doubtfire. I actually appreciate the movie's portrayal of him as a villain because even though he's an antagonist, he's never portrayed as a bad person. He's a good partner to Miranda and a supportive father figure to her kids. He's just the antagonist because he's working against the interests of the main character. This. As a kid I thought he was just horrible, but as an adult I failed to see what he was doing was wrong in any way. Miranda was single and ready to mingle. They had a history. Even his friend's whole, what about you not wanting any kids? And Stu just said, I changed, and these kids are awesome. Meanwhile, they're divorced. Obsessed father is dressed as an old woman sitting at the other end of the bar before assaulting Stu with a lime and run by fruiting. I mean, it's pretty obvious who is more stable for those kids going forward. Meanwhile, the protagonist tries to kill him with his pepper allergy. This world needs more run by fruitings, though, as long as they are limes and not watermelon or coconuts. And don't forget about that drive-by fruiting. They made him the antagonist, but he was never portrayed as a bad guy. I didn't come here thinking I'd actually find a relatable answer, but you're so right. This blew my mind when I watched it back years later, and I didn't think anyone would believe me or understand. Thank you. One of my favorite things about the movie is there really is no bad guy, but I guess if there has to one, it would be him. He also performed the Heimlich and saved him. So it's clear he didn't mean to choke the dude. He was actually trying to be supportive of the family. If anyone was the real bad guy in the movie, it was Miranda. She had a right to want a divorce, but was out of line for being spiteful and trying to prevent an obviously devoted father from seeing his kids, who he very much lived for, and for trying to replace the kid's father immediately with a man the kids didn't even know. The guy asked for no pepper while the protagonist was elsewhere. He didn't know it was an allergic. He just assumed he was a wimp. As soon as he saw him choking, he rushed to the rescue and blew his cover. Not to mention the dad immediately is too busy to be with the kids cause of his new show playing Mrs. Doubtfire. And also let's not forget that he threw away his entire ducking career because he waited to the last second to raise a moral objection in the cartoon he was voicing. They had literally animated and everything, and he was like, wait, no, let's not do this. I will always root against Pierce Brosnan. Total tool. Except for when he shuts down folks who hate on his wife, then I say, go Piercy. Was the real problem that the courts did not grant him visitation rights or something? He wanted to see his kids, not get back with his wife, right? I remember the first time I rewatched the movie as an adult, why adult? And I was horrified by the birthday party that Daniel Robin Williams threw. Doofenshmirtz. When he was born, even his parents didn't show up. Musical Evil Incorporated musical. And he was raised by ocelots. Yes and no. I feel like Doofenshmirtz is a good guy, but not the good guy. Like he's very clearly a good person, great dad, breaking the cycle of generational abuse. Even his ex-wife has almost entirely good things to say about him, friends with even his professional nemesis, etc. But his inventions are mostly malicious. You do get where he's coming from, but it's not as if he's the one selflessly working for the good of humanity and Perry is actually evil. Ah yes, Parry, the platypus, you have fallen into my comment. Yeah, that's why he became a good dad to his daughter. He wanted to be the dad he never had. However, you could argue that he doesn't really want to be evil, yet proceeds with those civil plants anyways, because he doesn't want to lose Perry. I think we could even call those two friends. They obviously have a close relationship, and when Perry is replaced by that panda, Doofenshmirtz gets sad and angry and tries to get Perry back. Even more so, because in some episodes, Doofenshmirtz could have accomplished his mission, yet because Perry didn't show up, he stops to question where Perry is and doesn't proceed. If he was truly evil, he would have just gone ahead by immediately stopping the plan because your Nemea doesn't turn up. He basically admits that he's just doing it so Perry shows up. He really has a heart. Curse you, Perry the platypus. But are they real if malicious? Most of them revolve around fixing his own life, mildly inconveniencing others, and exacting revenge on Roger, an absolute ducking sociopath I might add. Most of his inventions are petty though. They usually wouldn't seriously harm anyone. Phineas and Ferb got too repetitive for me after a point. Doof totally carried the show at some years. The boyfriend from the Bee Movie In What World is a woman falling in love with a bee normal. He's completely within his rights to act the way he did. Falling in love with a bee and breaking up with your boyfriend to date said bee is a clear hint of insanity. Add insult to injury, he had a severe bee allergy. I know. Dude had a bee allergy, basically self-defense. This is a good point. I'd be pretty upset if I got dumped for a bee. I know people around here have a fond nostalgia for that movie, but I watched it a few years ago for the first time and found it weird. As you said, there's the whole woman/bee romantic connection. But also, I couldn't help but feel a weird slavery mixed messaging. Like, so the bees just go back to work as usual at the end. 'Cause everything is dying? Work yourself to death is cool, 'cause you need to be part of the ecosystem. Maybe it's 'cause I watched it in the middle of the pandemic lockdown and I was pretty depressed, though. It would definitely cost me some confidence, I'll tell you that much. He tried to murder what he knew was a sentient being. Said it before and I'll say it again, the dad in the Lego movie. He just wanted his kid to stop messing with his stick. Perhaps the dad should have given his kid some Lego to play with so he wouldn't feel the need to keep messing with his dad's setup. That would kill the movie's plot though. XD. He did though. He had the cardboard box of leftovers, / side tangent. The Lego Movie 1 and 2 are perfect films, proving without a doubt Phil Lord and Christopher Miller get it and are amazing writer-directors, especially with children's movies. I feel even now as an adult I learn things from their movies. Absolutely not. I'm staunchly against the death penalty, but I waver in my core beliefs when I find someone has glued together Lego. Cloud Cocoland was made from the blocks that the dad let the kid play with. Boy Batty replicant leader in Blade Runner played by Rutger Hauer, basically a cyborg built to act and think like a human, decides he wants to live longer when people are trying to kill him. Gets violent in order to keep himself alive. Understandable reaction. The ending of that movie really turns around your whole perception of him. I watched this as an adult for the first time. I'm 30 and the whole time I was like, am I supposed to root for this guy? Then you get to the end. I stand by my thoughts that I was right to root for him.